Hi, this is Congressional Update with Michael Capuano. I'm Sarah Fishman. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Sarah.
Can you see down your street?
Sure.
Is there enough snow for you?
We haven't been hit that bad. We can handle this.
Well, you're on Central, so.
Well, I think the city did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. That was one of my questions.
I do.
Okay. When do you think was the last? Did you, as a mayor, think you ever had a snowstorm this bad?
I don't know about individual snowstorms. I looked, actually, when this snowstorm was coming, I don't remember the exact numbers, but of the 10 worst years for snow, I had 6 of them.
Wow.
So, I mean, I don't know about individual storms, but for the season, yeah. We get hit pretty good.
Yeah. Well, we might see more of this with climate change, I think.
Possibly.
Yeah. So that is a whole...
We could have oceanfront property here in Somerville with climate change. We'll see.
Yeah, but that wouldn't necessarily work out in a good way.
I didn't say that it was good.
Yes. All right. This is a very large issue that you and I have kind of skirted around, which is the climate change stuff.
What's the skirt around? It's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to, for today, continue to skirt because I don't know what to say, what to ask you. Okay. So I have what I've been told is a rather silly question, but I will ask it to you anyway. We were supposed to have a show a week ago, and it got snowed out. And I lost my notes, so I'm not making any promises today. Okay, so here's my silly question. A drone is A, unmanned, B, remotely controlled, C, can detect the difference between a dog and a cat, C, D, armed with missiles, or E, all of the above?
All of the above.
Almost. It's a silly trick question because it can tell, if it has infrared sensors, it can tell the difference between a man and a woman, supposedly.
Allegedly.
But not necessarily, yes, a dog or a cat. So.
Depends who you ask.
Right. That's why, it's basically,
I think the control room was right. Bad question.
Yeah, well, what can I say? Quality control people were on strike. All right, so it's kind of a quiet period because Congress is not in session now, but there's still a lot sort of just hanging in the balance. I'm not sure what to start with. Let's start with a little bit of politics because we haven't had this show since beginning of December, and a lot of things have happened post-election. So Senator Kerry is now Secretary of State, which means that his Senate seat is open technically, and there's a special election June 25th. If you're not registered to vote, register to vote. If you do so by April 10th, you can vote in the primary. Primary is April 30th, and the special election is June 25th again. So currently we have Mo Cowan. Is that how you say his name?
Yes.
Who was former chief of staff?
That's
right. Was that his title? For Governor Patrick. And Patrick has tapped him to be the appointee until the special election. Was he a good choice?
Yeah,
someone to pick?
Mo's a good guy. Yeah, he'll do a good job. And the interim senator is not necessarily expected to be a leader on specific issues as much as make sure that Massachusetts is well represented, that we have a vote in the Senate. And I fully expect that Mo will take a lot of guidance from the governor and from Senator Warren. So
do you find it at all odd, maybe a leading question, Senator Warren has only been there a little while, and yet she now is the senior senator. Would that have suggested the need for someone who's more of a Washington insider as the appointee?
No, I don't think so. We're only talking 3 months. And like you said, things are relatively slow. Mo's a very smart and capable guy, and what he doesn't know, he can get on the phone and ask. Okay. And he will.
Okay. Do you think there will be any sort of seismic change in representation in the Senate until the election, or do you think things will be...
No, we just had a major election, and to my knowledge, it's the only open Senate seat at the moment. Yeah. So, no, there won't be any seismic changes.
And are you surprised or not that Scott Brown is not running for...
Surprised. I thought he would run.
So, do you have any idea why he hasn't, or...
No, I just take him at his word. I mean, you know, I've been through it. I know how difficult it is. He's not wrong that it is an incredibly burden to run, what he said, I think it would have been 5 elections for him in a matter of 3 years
or something like that.
That's a massive undertaking. So I just take him at his word. I see no reason.
Did you see his wife's reaction when he conceded last time? His wife had this reaction, and someone said something about running for another position, and his wife was like, I don't think so. You're not allowed to do that. So, I mean, just at that level, it's a strain on the family.
It's a big strain on people, and on them, on their family, on their friends, on their supporters, and people who don't understand that, and if they haven't been deeply involved in a campaign, they can't understand that. But
is that why you decided not?
It's one of the many reasons. Yeah, it's a very important thing. I actually like being around my family, and with the job in Washington, I'm not as around as I'd like to be. When I was mayor, I get to be here every day, and it's a different situation. So I won't say it's the only factor, but it was a serious factor to me. Yeah.
Now you have said you're considering running for governor next year. Mm-hmm. Are you any closer to stating that officially?
No, honestly, Tim Murray's announcement that he was not going to run kind of set the calendar a little earlier than I had anticipated.
But that's not surprising, is it? That he's
not necessarily that. A little surprising, not that, but the timing was a little surprising to me. I didn't realize it was going to happen as quickly as it did. I had actually hoped for some time to take a deep breath, relax, see my family, get kind of into the rhythm of this current congressional session to make a decision later on. But, Tim's decision has kind of changed the calendar a little bit, so I probably have to give it more serious thought more quickly than I had anticipated.
Have you spoken with DeVal Patrick since that announcement?
No, I have not. Well, not about that. I mean, I've spoken to him, not about that.
Okay. So you're still considering it, though?
I have begun the process of giving it serious consideration. I wanted to take a few weeks after the Senate decision to think about this. I mean, it's...
What's the difference, governor versus senator, in terms of one's schedule?
It's where you get to sleep at night has a lot to do with that. What kind of money you can raise, who else is in the field, things like that. Whether you want the job, really. For me, the first criteria for me when I make these decisions is, do I personally want to give what it takes to run? And if I won't do that, or if I don't want to do that, then I can't ask anyone else to do it. So that's the first decision. The second question is, okay, if I'm willing to do it, do I really want that particular job? Do I really think I have something to offer?
Who would be your running mate? I just thought about this.
Well, you don't pick them. In Massachusetts, they run separately in a primary.
Yeah, but still, you probably say, I don't want so-and-so if you really don't like that other person, I would think.
It's hard to tell. I mean, I haven't given that an ounce of thought, nor will I at the moment. I mean, you don't usually
You're
get
not
to
there
pick
yet.
I'm not even close to that. I haven't. That's the first time it's even crossed my mind.
Some people think that you would make a good governor as a result of having been, mayor, having had an executive
position. A lot of my friends have said that for a long time. They think that I have a more executive-style personality and approach towards government than I do legislative. And I think on some levels they're right, and that is a factor. I mean,
I thought you would have a lot of trouble being patient enough when you first became congressman. Not being in charge,
patience is not necessarily one of my top virtues.
Well, you've been there for over a dozen years. Somewhere there must be some level
and that leads to a certain degree of frustration.
Yeah.
I mean, as mayor, there's frustration. There's always frustration. I mean, that's the way the system's worked. The system is not meant so that one person gets everything they want. So, I mean, there's always been some degree of that. The question is, are you making progress, and are you making it at a reasonable pace? When I was mayor, you could measure the progress that we made. In Congress, it's much more difficult, and I'm at the whim of others, particularly in the minority party. When the Democrats don't run the Congress, it's significantly tougher to measure progress.
That's a perfect segue into something, but I want to first ask you. The fact that Edward Markey sort of got tapped or had people support him so soon in going forward, did that bother you? Did that concern you?
I think it's terrible. It didn't matter to me politically.
Yeah.
And anyone who knows me knows that actually politically it had just the opposite effect.
This is running for senator.
Yeah, I mean,
now that we're talking about.
I have never been, nor do I will I ever be, nor do I want to be, the anointed one by the powers that be. I actually find that to be offensive. As an American,
well, it's not very democratic, small d.
It's terrible. It's just the opposite of that. I think it is exactly the kinds of things that got me involved in politics in the first place, is so-called self-anointed big shots being what they think they are.
Have you talked to him since?
Who?
Markey.
Yeah, I don't blame me.
You don't have anything against him personally?
I don't, not at all. And not only do I mean, I wouldn't get upset with Eddie. I mean, a candidate is supposed to do whatever they have to do to win. I think it's bad judgment, and I told him that. I thought that being the inside the Beltway candidate is not a positive.
Yeah.
That's not what people want. That's not what I want.
How long has he been in office? It's a long time.
30 some odd years.
Yeah.
So I mean, I actually think that you've seen me do it. I try not to get involved in local elections because I think that now that it would look like I'm trying to be the big shot and tell people who to run for alderman, who to vote for.
You must
this.
do some of that.
I do a little bit of it, but I do it, and when I do it, it's because of a personal relationship that I met, or a political relationship I built with somebody.
Was that Markey's idea? Was it a party establishment decision to
I think
kind
it
of
was a party
circle
establishment decision.
Yeah. So then, was there some sort of sacrificed primary process?
It didn't work, and it never will work. I mean,
well, did they do it because they were afraid Scott Brown would run, and this
I don't know
was
why
a
they did it.
defensive
I think that whatever
measure?
the reasons they did it for were wrong. I think they made a bad judgment. I think they actually hurt Ed Markey's campaign. I think people don't like to be told who to vote for.
Yeah.
That doesn't make Ed Markey is a good candidate. Will make a good senator if he wins. So that has nothing to do with that. It has to do with bad, in my opinion, bad politics.
Mm-hmm. So what about Lynch versus Markey? Do you favor one or the other? No, I know you haven't.
I work
officially
with them both very closely. We have different things that are similar with each of them. Both of them are good candidates. Both of them make good senators. I have no plans or expectations to make a public endorsement. I think the people who take the time and trouble to go out and vote in a special election in April don't need my guidance to pick whichever one they feel more comfortable with.
These are already self-motivated voters? Is that what you're saying?
There's a self-motivated voters. You have two good candidates, both of whom bring certain things to the table. Their lives are very public. I don't think anyone who votes on April 25th, April 30th,
I believe.
I don't think anyone who votes that day will need my opinion to make a decision. They'll make their own decision, and I'm sure it'll be an informed one.
Okay, so let's go back to stalemate as a theme, which I wanted to segue to before. Filibuster.
Yep.
And so we're in this sort of holding pattern. I guess this is why I feel like things are sort of quiet, but not at the same time, because there are two nominations that are sort of pending, right? Because we have Senator Chuck Hagel, former senator from Nebraska, Republican, who's been nominated by Obama to be defense secretary. And effectively, his nomination or vote on it has been held at bay.
Delayed.
And this is very unusual, right?
Highly
to have that
unusual.
kind of appointment.
Highly unusual.
Filibuster. Now, and I didn't quite understand at first. Now, normally you would vote up or down. You would only need a majority to say that you approve the nomination in the Senate, right? But in this case, they were filibustering, or there was continued discussion, and there weren't enough people voting to shut down the discussion and therefore move the process forward.
That's what a filibuster is.
Yeah. So, but you look at the vote and you see 58 to 40, and you're like, well, that's 58 is more than 50. But it's this, everything is shifted to the super, but not normally for this kind of thing.
Not for this particular position, no.
Yeah. So what should one make of that?
One should make of the fact that the filibuster rules need to be amended. They need to be changed. There was the infinitesimal change this year. They did make
what was
one.
That?
I don't really understand exactly what they changed, but everybody I know that follows those details was disappointed in the so-called reform. That
well, what did it do? Did it make it easier or harder to filibuster?
It made it ever so slightly harder, but not obviously not for this and not for enough things. And you know, you're going to still have these problems. You're going to have a problem with the CFPB. You're going to have a problem with all, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Right.
You're going to have a problem all along the line, and this won't change. It's going to have a problem. The same problems you're going to see with substantive issues. It's just the way it's going to be.
Am I comparing apples and oranges when I think about this vis-a-vis the recess appointments that were considered invalid that Obama made previously? I mean, is there some
made those recess appointments because the Senate wouldn't even take up the individuals.
So is there some sort of I don't know what the word is, inconsistency or
the question
progressive
is,
lack of progression?
When people elect a president or a mayor or a governor, I think absent a real crisis, absent a really, really, really bad appointment, they should be allowed to have the appointees that they determine are appropriate for specific jobs, unless they find out that somebody they've appointed is a child murderer or something.
Yeah,
Absent that, if it's based on philosophical issues, the president of the United States just won an election. The governor wins an election. The mayors win an election. And I think they should be entitled to name the people they want, particularly for the largest jobs in the country. If those people don't perform well, they should be held accountable. The president should be held accountable.
So when was the last time there was something like this that was held up that maybe in your eyes was
the only
legitimate?
thing I can think of, I believe John Tower, a Republican senator back in the 70s
Texas?
or 80s, was held up. I don't remember exactly when that was, and I don't remember who appointed him, but I think his nomination was pulled.
Was he Speaker?
No, he was a senator from Texas. No.
Yeah.
I don't remember the details.
Yeah.
But you know, it happens all the time. I mean, this one just happens to be a big one.
Yeah.
But you know, when it comes to the appointment of judges, we have, I don't know how many dozens of judges around the country that are being held up because Republicans don't want Obama to make those appointments. Yeah. Now, it's, again, if there's a specific judge or a handful of judges that they don't think have the qualifications, fine. That's understandable. But that's not why they're holding up that many. I mean, the president has not made that many bad appointments. You couldn't possibly make that many bad appointments even if you tried.
I knew you were going to say that. Okay, what about John Brennan, who's been nominated to be head of the CIA, and his nomination is also pending? Is that a little bit different, or is
I would argue the CIA is a little different because of most of what they do operates in secret, and I would and again, I haven't followed the details of John Brennan, but I have real problems. I mean, it's my understanding that Mr. Brennan was involved with some of the torture issues that basically he said that was okay. And
did he? Are we sure that he said that?
No,
or is
I'm not sure of the details. Don't hold me to the details. I have not studied it. If I was in the Senate, I would have studied it. I'd know more. I only have some passing knowledge of it. But he's also involved with. I personally think that the questions we're asking about the drone program are very good questions that need an answer. I don't agree with what the president has done, and not the individual strikes or not even the use of drones, but the way they get used. I do think that in the new era of current warfare, when you're taking out individuals here and there, I'm not saying not to do it. I think it's perfectly appropriate to do it. And from what I know, thus far, they have been used wisely. I'm not objecting to any individual use of them that I'm aware of. I do, however, think that one person, the President of the United States, no matter who it is, I don't think one person should be empowered to target one other individual.
So there's a real delicate balance here, I think, because there's an executive privilege and a secrecy and a sort of War Powers Act of thing going on. But then you've expressed this before, but there's also congressional oversight for.
And these are all new questions. I certainly have my own opinions, but more importantly than anything else, I'm glad that Congress is finally talking about this issue, and maybe we'll come up with some new way to do it. This is a new issue. It's not an issue that was a problem 10 years ago.
So how would you do this? How
would I do it?
Yeah.
I would do it in that if the president had a list of individuals that he wanted to target for capture or killing, that he should be able to get that approved by a certain. Again, it shouldn't be done in public. It has to be done in private. Something along the idea of the FISA court, with certain rules and regulations that apply to it.
Can you quickly say what FISA is?
FISA, I don't remember. I don't remember what it stands for. Intelligence Services or something. It's a secret
court. It's what allowed wiretapping.
That allows
and that
wiretaps and the like. And I understand the need for secrecy when it comes to national security. I think that's fine. And FISA court, at least on wiretaps, has pretty much always said yes. But at least there is a third party that's one step removed that has to say yes or no. I don't think they should approve necessarily the individual action against Mike Capuano. But if Mike Capuano was
yourself on the list.
Well, I didn't want to pick somebody else or somebody else to get in trouble. If that person is on the list, you don't just put them on the list in a matter of a second. I mean, if they do, that's a problem. If that person is a known terrorist, in this particular case, Al-Qaeda, the known member, and we know we need to capture or kill that person, I think if you want to put them on that list, I think they should be done months ahead of time or whatever, and let somebody review it. And then when you get the chance at that person, take it. Now you've been approved.
There's no encumbering constitutional issue, or I mean,
there might be, but again, all these things, and that's why I'm saying
predetermined assassinations. It's not
an assassination. I mean, we are in a new era of warfare, and it is different than World War II, where you stood up and did this. And I get that, and it deserves to be completely vetted and debated in public, like we're doing. And again, my particular idea, I'm open to other ideas. I want the debate, and when the debate is over, I want some basic solution that takes the power out of an individual's hands.
Well, it's interesting because you're not saying anything about congressional oversight. You're doing as other people have and mentioning the idea of a secret court, which is interesting because when
congressional oversight would be part of it. Congress approves these judges to the FISA court.
I see. Okay.
I mean, if Congress wants to put itself in, as long as it's not to the immediate action, I don't think that anyone should say that this particular action at this point is appropriate. I mean, if we say that this person is bad enough, Osama bin Laden, he's bad enough to kill or capture, he should be on a list and let the military make a decision when then it's appropriate to do it.
Okay, and what about policies of deciding, it says that we do this if we haven't been able to reasonably capture the person, if there is an imminent threat. Who defines all of that? Is that all court determined?
I would argue that would be, as long as there is a process to be done that requires somebody more than one individual sitting in the Pentagon coming up with that list, then I'm fine with it.
Okay, that's interesting because I know you were very concerned when there was action in Libya and Obama never went to Congress.
I was not opposed or in favor of the action in Libya.
I
was opposed to the fact that the President of the United States, a single individual, was permitted or took the authority to commit this country into a war an action of war. And to me, that's a problem, not the Libyan action. I didn't think that was a real threat to America. I'm concerned about the next president doing the next act based and say, well, you let it happen in Libya and it was no problem, and now I decided to attack France. Judgment is important. We elect our people for judgment. At the same time, when it comes to the act of war that commits an entire country to something, I think the judgment of more than one person is required.
Well, and I think some people have argued that some people have said that Obama is now supporting something that as a senator he did not support when
every
Bush was president.
Every mayor, every governor supports things that they didn't support when they were in the legislature.
But I mean that the personality or the personness of the individual president, that can't make a difference in what you allow or disallow.
Who everybody knew wanted to get Saddam Hussein on a personal basis. Even he came to Congress to get permission. And I voted against it, but he had enough members that people voted. So therefore, I can complain about whether he lied to Congress, which I think he did, and okay. But at least the process, at least America didn't go to war on the basis of one person's decision in a closet. And I would argue the same. And again, I'm really not worried about President Obama so far. The actions he's taken, I, as a member of Congress, probably would have supported. That's not the point. The point is there will be another president someday doing something else that somebody else may disagree with. And
I can't imagine you disagreeing with someone.
Well, you've forgotten.
Yeah, no, that was facetious. Okay, so let's shift a little bit. There's no good segue. The sequester. My father said, "Got to ask him again." I'm like, we always talk about, got to ask him again. So March 1st. So that's fairly soon. Today is February 19th. The automatic across-the-board cuts are supposed to go into effect.
Yep.
What's happening here? I mean, as you've said before, the can has been kicked down the road. Are we still seeing the can kicked, or will there be any?
We're out this week. We go back next week. We have 5 days to deal with it. Is it possible that we deal with it in that 5 days? Sure it is. If we do, we'll probably kick the can down the road again. I don't think that we will. I think that there are enough Republicans now that are pretty clearly, loudly stating that they just as soon see sequester enacted. So if they want to do that, I don't see them bringing anything to the floor.
So is that what you think will happen?
Yes, I do. I don't know how long it'll. I mean, it may not last for more than a week or 2 or 3, or might not.
So could something happen retroactively, the way it did sort of?
It could.
Last the end of the year.
It could, but I'm not. At the moment, I think sequester for the rest of this fiscal year will probably occur, and probably occur without amendment. Now that we will probably soon begin the debate about next year. Don't forget, sequester is not a one-year thing. It's 10 years.
What is it? It's $1.2 trillion over a decade?
Yeah, it works out to about an 8% cut every year on top of the previous year's cuts. This year is a little bit less because we did kick it down the road. That 8% has turned into, I think, 5% in that range.
So is there going to be any give, my father's question again, any give, with any discretion as to how the cuts occur, or?
Full discretion. I mean, well, within reason. Discretion within spending room. So for the sake of discussion, when you go to the Defense Department, they will take a 5% cut or whatever it is. Within that, the individuals in the Defense Department will have some say as exactly which lines get cut. So yes, there'll be discretion there, but they will then work with the President, and it'll be the executive
So is there
branch.
anything on a short list that you would have that you would want to see particularly protected or particularly not protected?
I didn't vote for the sequester in the first place.
No,
I think it's a horrendous idea.
I know, but if it happens as you're predicting it might, then...
If we're going to do something stupid, then stupidity should be pretty much across the board. I mean, I was at something yesterday relative to some scientific research. Cutting scientific research is cutting our nose off to spite our face, not just in the science basis, but also the future of our economy is based on knowledge, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, especially
particularly here, but around the country as well. So, I mean, that's an insane attempt to do something. We're going to do it, and it will hurt in the long run. Other countries will beat us at our own game, which is very, very bad. But I can't say that that's more important than putting heating fuel in the homes of senior citizens. I can't say that's more important than feeding infants.
You're not going to push one way or the other.
I mean, not specifically. I've told people across the board that I will not advocate for my handful of favorite programs, because.
What are your favorite programs?
for me personally, it's things that help Americans. I mean, things like fuel assistance, things like WIC, things like education, things like senior housing, things like community development programs in the city of Somerville. As a former mayor, I can't tell you how important that was to me as mayor. Yeah. And so therefore it is, it's the wrong question, it's the wrong answer, and it's a debate I'm trying to avoid because it's not because it's just the wrong question. Any one program can take a cut, but when you're cutting across the board like we are dismantling our entire society as we have come to accept it. It's not going to be seen overnight, but it will be seen over the long run, and we need to engage in the debate of what kind of country do you want to have, not right this very second, but 5 years from now.
Do you think people don't understand the sort of long-term effect here? Do you think that...
I think some do not. I think a lot of people do, and some of those people are remaining relatively silent, and I need them not to be silent. I think some people think that the federal government is full of waste, fraud, and abuse. Is there waste, fraud, and abuse? Sure there is. When you get a gazillion-dollar budget, of course there's going to be some. But what makes anybody think that I like that? I hate that because it empowers those people that don't like those programs in the first place to then attack those programs. I mean, for the sake of discussion, the WIC program literally puts nutritious foods in the mouths of infants and pregnant and nursing mothers.
Infants and children.
Women's, infants, and children. Yeah. I think that the richest country in the world can afford to make sure that our newest born infants are well fed. I think we should be able to do that. I can't imagine that we wouldn't. And yet we're about to literally cut that program. And some people think that that's not what the government should do. I respect that debate. I don't agree with it, but I respect it. And yet, we can't even have that discussion. People don't have the connection here of what's going to happen to an infant who is malnourished in his first year of life. Not only is it bad for that infant, it is terrible for society because that infant will grow up, not all of them, obviously, but a larger percentage of them grow up to have both physical problems and mental and emotional problems that many of them will lead to even higher criminal activity. I know that that sounds liberal and touchy-feely, but it's not. It is a statement of fact. And that statement of fact means for $1 today, feeding an infant who has no choice in life, and I don't mean infants at 15 years old, I mean infants less than a year and a half old.
Newborns.
Newborns. Yeah. Feeding that infant is the best investment we can have, not just for that child, who I might feel bad for and shed a tear, but it's also the best investment for me and my society to make sure that child has a better chance to have a successful life.
Wow. Well, there are other things I wanted to ask you, but I think we have to stop. And that's way more profound than I'm normally able to get out of you. So this has been Congressional Update with Michael Capuano. I'm Sarah Fishman. Register to vote if you haven't. Have a good day.